Welcome back to another episode of Not That Important. We'll talk about some of the takeaways from the New Zealand series, particularly as pertaining to the tactics, our middle order concerns, and what we think we can do to solve those. I think after the PSL, we were all feeling quite positive, given the fact that we had good options in every position. It looked like bowling, batting, lower middle order का थोड़ा सा concern था, especially given that Azam hadn't translated his domestic performances in international so far. Like, yes, he has only had a few games, but still not the level of performance that he would have hoped for. But with Ifti's base hitting ability plus Imad Wasim coming back and like the emergence of Irfan Khan Niazi and players like that, वहाँ भी थोड़े से options थे. Plus like Imad and Amir's returns obviously come with question marks off the field, but I don't think you know it's hard to argue that they don't strengthen the squad overall, right? Like on the field, if you look at it. So given all that, I think generally like leading into the series, like अच्छी vibes aa rahi thi. But then the series actually started, and it wasn't great. And I think like before we get into like some of those talking points, I think I'm not too fussed about the results. Like even before the series, like I wasn't really interested in the results. Yes, like weakened New Zealand side RET, so like you would have expected us to be a lot more dominant, which is disappointing given that only like I think 4 or 5 of the players in their team are actually going to the World Cup. But for me, like I was more interested in giving opportunities to some of the younger players who played well in the PSL or some of the newer guys, and then more importantly, like observing like our tactical approach to see if there is actually any growth or development in our side. Right? We saw some things in the PSL, and we were interested to see if those would translate to the Pakistan side. And it was a great opportunity, I think, for a lot of people to put their hand up and take their chances. But bro, like no one really did that, which was quite disappointing. But ultimately, like the bottom line for me is these tactical flaws that just keep coming up again and again. They haunt us in some big games as well. You know, these series really start to expose some of our deficiencies and the fact that we're not using our resources optimally. And that's something that really like worries me. And that's what I want to talk about today mostly. Because generally, yeah, इस team के बारे में it feels like I feel really good about the team and the options we have and everything when they're like not playing. But when I start watching them, I like just want to tear my hair out because of all the decision making, regardless of who's playing.
Yeah, it's we'll get into it, but I think it's just like an amalgamation of the fact that um 50 to 60% tactics, not always understanding what's going on, and then 40 to 50% of okay, like now you guys who we want to get opportunities at right stages, you are getting those
Yeah,
opportunities, and no one's doing anything as well, right? So it kind of leaves you confused as to what is the actual problem, because जब इनको बारी मिलती भी है तो फिर घंटा कुछ कर रहे हैं, और जब नहीं मिलती हम we will cry out for them to get their chances and stuff. We'll blame the management and the captain, but then when you get the opportunities, you gotta grab them as well.
yeah, 100%. I think the main concern and the issue or worry for us for a while has been like the middle order, right? Because we have a lot of openers in the squad. Because of that, we're playing players at number 4 like Fakhr and Usman in this series who are more naturally suited to playing in the power play. But जब तक उनकी बारी आती है, it's either like the last over of the power play or the power play is ended. Especially like for Fakhr, like having to get set against spin sometimes like is a challenge and it takes him some time. But the bigger concern, and it includes Fakhr and Usman and just about like every other player who's vying for these positions, is the fact that none of those options at number 3 or 4 really have the ability to walk out and attack straight away. And what that means is we lose a few overs each game with players like consolidating after the power play. And when I say lose a few overs, like what I mean is that you're not taking advantage of those overs to actually like score big runs, and at the end of the day, you're continuing to play catch up. Like, and players like Fakhr and Usman can get their strike rate up to 140, 150 if they spend a lot of time in the middle. But ultimately, like what really bugs me is this concept of catching up that we keep talking about. I don't think there should be anything such as catch up in T20s. Like, I don't think T20s afford you the time to catch up unless you're batting second and you know what that target is. If you're batting first, your goal should always be to score like the maximum that you can we tend to set like an upper limit for ourselves. कि वो like ये average score है and let's aim towards that and wickets in hand रखेंगे, eventually जाके attack करेंगे, and like we don't end up getting it. If you look at the series, like 170 के scores बन रहे हैं हर match में. Like we're stuck at that level and we're just not, crossing that upper limit, which I think is a big concern right now.
Yeah, it is a concern. When you're talking about the ability to come out at number three right away and hit, the only one who has that is Mohammad Haris, right? Out of all of the guys in our, and maybe if Saim Ayud
No,
played there, we haven't
Shadab.
seen him play there though. But Muhammad, maybe,
What do you mean maybe?
yeah, but yeah, he can do it. But for me, strike rate, I don't buy into this average doesn't matter debate at all. I don't. Strike, yes, you have to take it with a pinch of salt, but if a guy is striking at 200, but his average is 12, I don't give a damn, to be
Shadab's
completely
average is
honest,
not
right?
12.
I,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying I'm not saying that
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm just giving an example here. Um, but yeah, so Shadab, we have to see him at number three, but number
Bro, this
three
is
at the same
sorry,
time,
sorry
you're
to
still
cut you off. The one thing I would say, and I'll let
yeah.
you come to your point, but like number 3 and number 4 are not like fixed positions. Like it depends on when.
You're talking
Yeah,
about
it
entry
depends on when
point.
the
You're
wicket
talking about
falls,
entry
right?
point. I
Yeah,
know. Yeah, sure, sure. Um, sure. Entry point's fine, but if a wicket is falling the first ball of the match, I'm not
no,
setting Shadab at
not
number
definitely
three,
not.
bro.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like after the power
Yeah.
play or like after 3 or 4 overs, you can. Like I'm saying,
Sure.
I'm
Yeah, yeah,
again
for
not
sure, for
advocating for him to
sure.
play number 3. I'm just saying that if we're talking about players who can attack straight away, like he's that option that you have.
Yeah, yeah. I guess just the difference is I've maybe not seen it up
Yeah,
the order.
yeah,
Islamabad, sure. Three pe aata hai kabhi kabar, but a lot of times
yeah.
चार पे bhi aata hai na. So
That's
that
fair.
was my only thing. But yeah, theoretically, sure, he does have the ability to come and get going right away, which he's shown in the series as well, right? From even more mushkil situations that coming in the power play, right? Like he's coming in towards the bottom and 40 of 20 with half the game done already. So yeah, he does have that ability for sure in him, more than a lot of the other guys. Um, I know, let's get right into it, bro. I know we wanted to have
Let
this
Okay.
anchor.
You wanna get into
Um,
that debate? Okay.
yeah, I think we want to just because you mentioned the point right now about not having time to catch up, and that's not something I necessarily agree with. I agree that we need to get going quicker, but I feel like sometimes we don't let a guy any time to get set,
Okay.
which I still think you can afford that a little bit. Maybe you set the tone with where you're going with this, and then I can counter.
I think the major thing here is the fact that, and there's been a major debate for Pakistan cricket for a long time. Rizwan and Babar have been opening. They've done tremendously. You look at the numbers; they're like always up there in all the lists. They're the backbone of Pakistan's T20 international side. But if you look at the way modern cricket is going, like, can you really afford to have two anchors, which is what Babar and Rizwan undeniably are, at the top of your order in the modern game? Like the argument that most people make is the fact that they're consistent, and if we look at the rest of the more aggressive players that we have, they're quite unreliable. Particularly, like when you add the fact that as Pakistan fans we have these scars of seeing our team collapse in big games. And so the security of having two batsmen of that caliber at the top of the order really helps us feel better about the team, just knowing what we know about them. But like obviously there are other players in the Pakistan setup who have that ability to get going straight away, have higher strike rates within the power play. One of those is Saim Ayub. And clearly Pakistan have also acknowledged that they need to sort of move ahead with the times, and they've broken Babar and Rizwan's partnership up and included Saim at the top of the order. Like obviously he didn't take his chances in this tournament, but he has those flashes of brilliance, and we know it'll come. Like he's a brilliant talent. So I think with the short range he has, like all we have to do is like back that talent, and it will deliver. The debate here for me is the fact that our psyche is to keep wickets in hand and then catch up later. It's what I mentioned before as well. It's see out the power play, keep wickets in the hand in the power play, and then be able to catch up later because you have confidence of having wickets in hand. I'm going to share something with you. In the last 10 innings, And this is including when Sam is batting at the top of the order. So for clarity, when Pakistan batted first in the last 10 ODI, last 10 T20, sorry, when we've lost like one or no wickets within the power play, our average total is 155. And when we've lost more than two wickets or two or more wickets, it's 160. That's like concerning, bro. It means that like it doesn't really matter if we conserve wickets or lose wickets in the power play, we're scoring the same. So like I think that's a glaring weakness, particularly when you marry that with the fact that if you look at the numbers as well, we have a weakness in terms of hitting sixes in the squad, right? We can't do that.
Yeah.
So why are we putting the pressure on the players to be able to catch up later when we actually have the power play to be able to utilize that with three fielders outside the circle and actually score like 10 or 11 runs and get started and build that momentum early on in the innings? That's what I'm saying. Like, why don't we actually make use of the one period in the game where like there's only three fielders outside the circle, but also like so that there's less pressure on the rest of the side, right, throughout the innings, to quote unquote like catch up. Like, why wouldn't you say a team that has like less resources in terms of like death hitters or like six hitters in the squad should actually be trying its best to utilize the power play to the
Sure.
fullest? And we're obviously
Yeah.
not.
We don't have the leeway of having like a Pollard or a Russell behind,
Wait,
right?
like
So if
if
anything, our guy should be getting at it quicker,
exactly.
like you're
If Babar and
saying.
Rizwan are playing for South Africa with Klaassen and Miller to come, and they're like, okay, we'll conserve wickets at the top, and these guys will like go ham at the end, it still makes sense. There's still like a part of me that says that even in that team, like it wouldn't be the best approach.
They wouldn't
Yeah,
let him get
exactly.
away with that, but I
But
see
like
what you're
again, if we had
saying.
those options that reliable hitters, like we have hitters in our squad, we have Ifti, we have Azam, we have Shadab, but like those guys like have what you spoke about with the averages and the strike rates, right? But Pakistan don't. So that's why like we need to take advantage of that player that sorry that 6 over period at the start. And I think my argument, before I let you sort of make it, is like if these guys are our best players, why aren't they taking the responsibility to score at that level? Like, why does it fall on the so-called like lesser players to catch up for their slow starts? That's my problem with this entire mentality, because for me it feels like you're making it harder for your teammates, and it's not ultimately like getting you to where you want to go, because ultimately हम 170 बना रहे हैं. हम 200 210, particularly when we're batting first, नहीं बना रहे. When we're batting second, when we know what we have to do, we're usually okay.
Babar and
Yeah,
Rizwan especially
they're
are
really
okay in that
good, you'd
situation,
say. Yeah,
right? And they go from being maybe your weakness in the first innings to
yeah.
actually being your strength in the second, right? So it's an interesting one. The one thing I would say, Shayan, is I agree with your point completely. Like we have to start in the power play, and I think even in that 7 to 10 over phase where we religiously slow down, I think we like what you're saying is not wrong at all. And the fact that after losing two wickets, we end up with a higher score is very telling of the fact that maybe we're not pushing it enough. I understand your point though with the over use of anchors. It is something that they are going to have to change. Babar looks like he's starting to change it a little bit, and Rizwan I think is now the one who, if he is in the team, which is the second part of debate we're going to get into now, I think he really has to take the onus to step up there now. But your point overall is not wrong at all. It's the truth, right?
Well, it's just the approach is still ultimately conservative. Ultimately, it comes down to intent, right? Because they don't take enough risks in that early period. Like, no shit,
Yeah.
like you'll conserve wickets and not get out if you don't try to take those risks and up the scoring, right? Um,
लेकिन बाबर को ऑपोजिट है शाही, वो तो पावर प्ले में फिर भी ठीक ठाक जा रहा होता है उसका, तो बीच में वो लेके चलता है,
नहीं
he's
bro,
batting
like
at
in
about, for example, where he's
power play में वो सही है, लेकिन he's happy. He said this in his press conference, in the power play we need to score 50 runs, and then we'll start scoring
yeah.
later. This is what he said. So forget what
No,
is
but I'm saying that day he had 30 off 15 after
that.
the power play. Then he scored 19 off the
Yeah.
next 19. So even if he's going 200 at the beginning, he will come down towards the average in the middle, regardless of what he's doing and regardless of the. That's just his style of forming a T20 innings before exploding at the end, should he get to that phase, which he didn't that day in the 4 T20. But what I'm saying is, even the days where we get to the quick start, the guy coming in, the guy batting in the middle, Babar, if he's already got the start, will slow down. The guy coming in at number three, inevitably, unless it's like a Shadab or Muhammad Haris, like we're talking about, they're also going to take their time to get set, though, bro. Like,
So that's what we have
less
to
than 10
change then,
overs left
right?
or
The
something like
people
that.
who are batting at number 3, number 4, who are coming in after the power play should not be the guys who need time to get settled in. Like they have to be guys who can go straight
Yeah.
away, because we don't have, like, what do we wait? Like, look at this.
But we don't have
Yes, we
those,
do.
bro.
Yes,
We
we
don't
do.
have
This
those,
is I
bro.
disagree. I disagree completely, bro. We have.
Who?
Yeah,
Besides
so
Shadab
Shadab, what do you
and
mean
who do
besides
we have?
Shadab? He's the answer. Like he's there, right there, batting.
He's the one guy. Well, okay, then he gets out in this first
Yeah,
two, three balls. Then what happens? The next guy's gonna come. Like, who's
Azam
gonna
Khan
come
is
and
going to
play
come
that role
after
then?
that. That's number 5.
With 10 overs,
You
yeah.
look,
We'll
if,
say.
if you look at strike rates batting first since 2022, Shadab has a strike rate of 159 for Pakistan. This is for Pakistan. This is not for PSL or anything like that. Strike rate of 159. The next best batting first is 135. And everyone in the squad today
Okay.
has a strike rate of around 130 batting first for Pakistan. That's a huge jump, man.
Yeah.
Like that's something you have to back now. Like what are you waiting for? Like he's there, he's in the squad. Like you have to give him the chances to bat. The other thing is that if you take time in the middle, you have someone like Ifti at the end. He's not getting enough time to like score. Like what are you saving wickets for? Like wickets tum ghar leke jaoge wapas. How many matches are we actually losing? All like are we getting to like 6 or 7 down or 8 down at the end of the innings? Right? We're not.
Not enough. You'd actually.
What
A
are we
lot of
what are
them
we
hope
saving
that
these
there would be a
wickets
wicket
for?
so that guy can
Like
come in.
वैसे तो आके Shaheen और Naseem भी छक्के मार सकते हैं. Imad and Iftikhar have proven that they have that ability to like score at that level. So why are we not giving these guys the opportunity to? Why do we have this thing that they can't do it until you actually give them the opportunity to bat properly? You won't find out. So what are we waiting for? Is my thing.
No, Shadab point, I agree. They have to start. I think they need to now realize that at this stage in his career, his batting is better than his bowling on a
Yeah.
day in day out basis. So I think they need. I agree with that there, bro. There's no argument for me there at all. It just I get confused because you'll see like in the third T20, right, where Fakhr scores, fifth T20, Fakhr scores 43 off
It was
33,
a horrible
right,
innings.
and
It was a horrible
वो भी
innings though.
एंड में जाके
Yeah.
उसने रिकवर किया. But bro, fine, horrible innings, but we're talking about
Yeah.
intent here. We're talking about intent. Was he
No,
not
no.
trying to swing from the
He
second he
did.
got there?
I can't discount that. He was trying to hit, but unfortunately, Fucker's like the exception here, where he just can't get going straight away. Like that's not his game. If you actually look at the numbers, they back this up as well. Like his strike rate towards the middle overs is not as good. Like I think if you look overall at Fucker's strike rate, it's actually 130 in T20s, which is probably like even like around the same as Babar or Rizwan's. Like which is not good. Like
Yep.
ultimately with Fucker, what we're backing is. And sorry, yeah. So the stat was middle over strike rate since 2020. Fakhr has 125, so not even 130. It's even lower than that. It's the lowest out of everyone in the current team. So you're asking him to go out in the middle overs. So eventually, like he'll start slow. He'll catch up. Eventually, he'll get to that 130, 140 strike rate. But like ultimately, like you're not
That's if he survives until then, right?
So like you're ultimately not getting the best out of him either, right? Which is why I'm saying like
Yeah.
why are you sort of pigeonholing him into a position where like he's not comfortable when you have Shadab who can actually do that and score at that level? Why don't you just like play him properly? Like it's been years, bro. Like
But then does that mean moving Fakhr up the order? Or does that mean dropping Fakhr? Because
it means that Fakhr has to bat at number 3 or he's not in the team.
It's interesting though because since I've done some research from when Rizwan came into the team, on Babar and Fakhr separately, and what I found is contrary to what I thought, bro. Fakhr Zaman's strike rate in the top three since Rizwan came into the three is 117 in 26 innings, and in 10 innings at number 4, his strike rate is 155
Sure.
playing for Pakistan, which is absolutely contrary
I
to what I
think-
would have thought. But I don't care. It still doesn't seem like a natural.
One thing I would
position
call out
for
about
me.
those numbers
Like
is how many of those games were in Sena countries. Because Fakhr in Sena countries versus and by Sena I mean South Africa, England, New Zealand, and Australia, where like
Yeah.
that's more conducive to his style of batting. Again, in the New Zealand series,
Sure.
in the winter where we played in New Zealand, his strike rate was 166. He actually was playing really well. Ultimately,
Yeah.
this World Cup is not in those conditions. And Fakhr, we saw in the PSL again, is really struggling in like the slower conditions that we have in the subcontinent and also
Yeah.
in that we'll see in the West Indies. They'll put spinners
Exactly.
on ultimately, and the thing is, like, if you look at everyone in our team, they generally find it difficult to manufacture scoring shots in the middle overs when the like oppositions are, like, bowling in the right areas. Ultimately, when you look at the World Cup, people are going to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. Every team's going to be prepared. You're not going to get balls fed in your right areas, and you're not going to get those loose deliveries to be able to get, like, off the mark, and also, like, just like to make up for the low strike rate that you have. So we're too reliant on being fed those
That's a
balls.
great point you're making,
Yeah.
especially. Sorry to cut you, bro. That's a great point you're making with the Senna one. But you're talking about him struggling against spin, but he's almost here out of all of these guys, he's a victim of the fact that he can clear the rope more than anyone else. So they kind of put him in that position because they don't think anybody else can do it. Shadab, maybe they're not brave enough to slot him there yet.
Yes.
Rizwan,
You,
maybe they want to keep in the team. And then the other thing is, you're talking about him being weak against spin, but look at the psyche of the Pakistan cricket team right now. They're putting him at number 4 because they want him to take on the spin with that slog
he's
situation,
really
right?
good at a
That's the
particular
matchup they're
type of
actually
spin.
backing him
Yeah, for
for.
sure. Like, yeah,
That's why they have
yeah,
him there,
100%.
right? It's their thinking and our thinking are not matching at this point
Yes,
at
but
all. We're saying something completely different to what they actually want
yeah,
to
but
execute on
when
at the
fucker
moment.
does attack spin, when does it happen? If you look at one days as well, why is his record in one days generally a lot better than in T20s? Because
Because
he
he
has
has
the
the
time to
time to
get
get
in,
in.
and ultimately when he's batting at number 4, he does not have the time to get in, and like,
No, but फिर मेरा ये argument है, bro. मेरा ये argument है फिर. अगर वो number 3 पे आए and he gives himself that time.
I'm not saying that he should come at number 3 and do that. I'm saying that he needs to come and hit straight away. That's why if he's batting, like, you need to put him in the power play. Like, वो time लेने का मसला मैं कह रहा हूँ कि वो होना ही नहीं चाहिए. Like, no one should be taking time in this team.
We'll get to this then. Or should we get to
What?
it now? This time taking
Yeah,
thing.
that's sure. Get to it.
Because this is something I've pulled out. I've thought about some of the more iconic innings recently in T20 cricket from non-anchor using countries as well as anchor using countries. And basically, I have no problem with the intent debate up until the point where we don't give people time to still score runs, because as batters, you still, I believe, need that time. Yes, you will get a flash in the pan, 40 off 20, that type of stuff. But for example, let me start off with these. I've highlighted 5 or 6 innings here, um, which I think are really interesting. So I'm gonna go first of all to 2016 World Cup final. Marlon Samuels chasing about 160 versus England in a collapse. Marlon Samuels took 47 balls to get to 50 in
Yeah,
that innings. Man of the match. Okay. Next innings here, semi-final chasing 190 at the Wankhede against India. Lendl Simmons,
yeah.
23 off
Phenomenal innings. Yeah.
20 chasing. We would murder someone for being 23 off 20 in a chase. Man of the match, 80 off 50. The same match earlier, 19 off 16 from Virat Kohli, coming in after the power play at
Yeah.
number 3. We're not going to give Fakhar Zaman time, but Virat Kohli is there on one of the flattest wickets in the world, 19 off 16, ends up with 89 off
Sure.
47, batting
Sure.
first, gets them to 190. Then we go to the 21 semi-final, Daryl Mitchell chasing 160, need about 11 in and over to win the match at the halfway stage. At the halfway stage, he has 22 of 23, man of the match. Then let's go to the MCG innings that has become, unfortunately, a staple in our recent T20 history. Um, 11 and a half off the last 10 in one of the tougher grounds to hit in the world against probably the best T20
Yeah.
attack in the world at the time, given conditions and everything. Kohli is 12 off 21.
100%.
You need time sometimes,
Your
bro.
your
You
your
need
argument is
time.
spot on, and ultimately every argument that you gave, apart from the Kohli one because they batted first, is in a chase. I'm fine with you taking your time in a chase. I'm saying that Pakistan's issue is batting first, so I'm focusing here on batting first, where we are not able to assess what the score needs to be. We think a par score hai, par hi banana hai. Par is average. Why are you trying to be average? Why are you trying to score the average score? You should be trying to go above and beyond to as high of a score as you possibly can. Everything that you said is spot on. Like, you need players to take time in certain games, particularly players who can catch up. Ultimately, like in a chase, you can have those sort of situations. When you're batting first, मुश्किल से एक बंदा वो कर सकता है कि like time ले सकता है when you don't have a scorecard in front of you and you don't know what a good score is going to be.
Right?
We still have this mentality 170 बनाएंगे bowlers कर लेंगे यार. Bowlers इस आजकल की cricket में they can't do it.
नहीं,
You
आजकल पड़
can't.
रही है,
And
आजकल
no, I'm
पड़
not.
रही
I'm
है.
not talking about our
Bro, I'm
bowlers.
not I'm not
Yeah,
disagreeing.
I'm just saying.
All the bowlers.
Oh, you have to
I
be more
agree with you that most
proactive.
of those stats were for batting
Yeah.
second games. Absolutely right. My only point is that I don't fucking care how you get to 200.
वो
I don't
200
care if a
पहुंच ही
guy
नहीं
is
रहे
of
यार तुम तो क्या like you we're reaching 170 playing like this
no,
against a
but
shit team
yeah,
against a
right
shit
now we're
team.
going. My point is that Rizwan is not opening. Babar got out pretty early. Why are Simon, Usman, or these guys who we think should be getting on the? Why are they not putting the
Yeah, they
work
didn't do
in?
well in the games. They didn't play to their potentials. Ultimately, like Osman didn't take his chance. Neither did Saim. That doesn't mean like you have to discard them. Like they're still getting used to international
No,
cricket.
I'm not trying to say that
I
either.
think,
Yeah, I want to
yeah.
clarify. I'm not trying to say to kick them out either. I'm just saying
No,
that
no,
it's always the
and
grass is
bro,
always greener type of
I
things. That's all I'm trying to say.
the way Osman played in the fifth T20, I have to be honest, if Rizwan was playing that way, I would have been super frustrated. Like I would have been very
That's
critical.
all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
I'm not I'm
That's all
not
I'm
I'm not
saying.
disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
My problem is not with Rizwan, it's with having two anchors in your side or whoever's playing in those positions. I'm fine with having Babar and Rizwan in the side. They just need to like lift their levels a little bit and push themselves. If they are the best players in our side, they can do it. They have the potential in it. You see Rizwan in one days at number 4 come out and take spin on and things like that. He needs to like push himself a little bit. And that ultimately I'm not seeing him. Even like if you look at the PSL as well, like say maybe he just had a bad tournament. That's fine. But like ultimately he's stuck at that 130 strike rate and we're not getting past that with him.
My issue is not even it was before, but I've come to terms with the fact that there's going to be certain times where maybe dropping Rizwan is the right thing to do. For example, if Usman Khan goes and he scores four, swashbuckling innings in the next 7 games, yes, he should play at that point, and maybe it's at the expense of Rizwan. My issue is that I feel we often find scapegoats for one problem we're having, and we throw it
Yeah,
all on one guy.
100%.
And I feel we've very unfairly done that on Rizwan.
My concern is that if we lose a wicket after the power play, once we'll send Rizwan out again, where he has a strike rate of 130, he won't be able to, and this is like not playing to his strengths as well, right? He won't be able to come straight away and play at 150, 160, 170, which is what you need. But someone like Shadab could come and do that. Say Shadab comes out and plays like an innings of like 30 of 18 or something like that, gets your strike rate up. Even if he gets out without like making a high score, it at least puts you in a situation where you have the momentum now and you can continue to carry it with players like Imad, with Azam, with Iftikhar, right? Yeah,
Chachu, yeah.
I am just concerned that we lose that momentum and continue to play within our shell by sending Rizwan after the power play. If we lose a wicket early on, if Babar gets out, Rizwan comes in like for like replacement, bro. Perfect. Like they'll play the same way. That's okay. For me, the concern is that you're gonna like the whole point of splitting up Babar and Rizwan is that you identify that there's a weakness there where you can take use of the power play a little bit more. What if Saim gets out and you send Rizwan? That sort of means that you're going back to the same thing, right? Ultimately, like you might have made a call, but you're not actually like looking at what the ramifications of that necessarily are, because if Sam gets out early, you send Rizwan, suddenly you're back at the same thing. So if you thought that there was a problem with that, then when Sam gets out, you should send someone else in who can actually attack and keep that momentum going. While if Babar gets out, like Rizwan comes in. Of course, there's certain situations.
You're talking
We're
batting
talking about
first
batting
here?
first. Yeah, if we're talking about batting second, you have a
Okay.
score in mind, like you have set up, then that's fine with Rizwan coming out and playing with Babar. I think that's the ultimate concern I have. That they're not going to be, if Rizwan's in the side,
Yeah.
they're not going to be brave enough, and brave is the key word here, to not send him in certain matches. There has to be certain matches where Rizwan doesn't have to bat. It's going to happen,
Yeah.
and you have to be brave
Yeah.
enough to make that call.
I agree with that 100%, bro. There's no
Okay.
argument from me with
Yeah.
that point at all. I think they have to be smart with the entry points. Same way if Babar was batting at number 3. Same thing.
Yeah.
अगर 12वें ओवर में
वही.
पहली विकेट गिरती है बाबर का क्या
Exactly.
काम है फिर
Exactly.
उस टाइम पे ना, so it's yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think you have to use the tools at your disposal at the right time, which is going to be the biggest test of
And the
Babar's
other thing,
captaincy
like coming
here.
back to what we were talking about Usman Khan and stuff, is that and I probably didn't make this point as well earlier. It's that Usman, Fakhr, these guys need time to get going. But ultimately, like with Babar and Rizwan in the side as well, because we will have them both in the side, whichever one of them is batting, like will need to play a different role than what they actually do for their PSL side, because we don't have We can't afford for them to spend time to get set in. We need to get going straight away. Ultimately, it puts more pressure on your like players to catch up later, because if we saw in the T20 where like Shadab, Imad, and Ifti didn't do so well, but Shadab and Imad really had that one game where they caught up later and we got to that 170 score. But ultimately, like if we'd actually attacked a little earlier in the innings, we could have got to 200, but we didn't.
Yeah. My only kind of thing with that is this part is not really backed by stats or anything like that. But just like if someone is playing, sure, let's not go with two anchors. If one guy has the job to anchor an innings, like Babar, for example, even if Babar does slow down, if he bats in the death, he's going to be striking around
Yeah,
PSL ko
bro,
dekho,
Babar's
200-ish,
I
right?
share
So
because what you're saying, his numbers are actually like phenomenal. If you actually look at his strike
yeah,
rates.
this guy's job is to carry your batting lineup. You have to get going sometimes
Yeah,
straight away as well. It doesn't always have to be that he's messing it up for them. Bro, that's your job. Your job is to help this guy get to the end of the innings so he
no,
can
no,
then
but
explode
the
as
the
well,
issue
right?
is,
So I think it has to be
no, no,
Saat mein as well. It can't always come on the
I
anchor at
agree with
that
you
point.
completely. Like there's a lot of criticism of Babar 19 of 19 after like having a good power play. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. I just feel like if you can see that the other guys are struggling, whether it be Fakhr or Usman, then you kind of have to. You can't be like have this mentally prepared notion ki, like I'm going to
Yeah,
bat the 20 overs, even if it's at the detriment of the team at that particular stage when the other guy's struggling.
yeah,
If you look at Babar in the PSL, striker in the power play, 149, fantastic. Striker in the middle, 124, quite conservative, concerning. Striker at the death, 244. Only Azam Khan is better
yeah,
than that in the PSL, which means that when Babar, like the way he paces his innings is actually perfect to be able to explode at the end. Ultimately, the issue is, can he either play quicker within the middle overs, or like we have to have someone at the other end who will hit. So we can't afford to have like Rizwan or Fakhr trying to get in, or Usman trying to get in at the other end when Babar is the one like playing conservatively in the middle overs as well. Ultimately, like maybe if like he went even harder in the power play, or if Pakistan went even harder in the power play, then we'd actually be able to afford to play the way we are in the middle overs. That's my ultimate point. Why are you trying to score 45, 50 in the power play and then still being conservative in that 7 to 10 phase to set yourself up for the end? Why, if you feel like you have an
yeah.
issue within 7 to 10, why not maximize the power play, attack more initially, so that by the time that 7 to 8 10 period comes in, if you need some players to take a little bit of time or you need to settle a little bit, you still have a little bit of leeway there to do that, which ultimately we don't at the moment, because हम power play में 65 70 तक पहुंच रहे हैं ही नहीं कभी.
70 तक तो खैर हक्स कोई नहीं पहुंचता है
Bro,
70 तक. Are you gonna see 70 scores in the power play
no, no,
lowest
bro,
in
but
the sport?
that
You're
that's
not.
relative to where you're playing, right? Like 70 in Pakistan is going to be
Yeah,
like 60 in the West Indies or 55 in the, like that's what I
sure.
mean, right? Ultimately,
Yeah,
I'm taking the
ठीक है,
example
fair
of,
enough,
of
fair
this
enough.
series that,
Yeah.
that we played.
हाँ, सही है.
Ultimately, I feel like we have the players within our squad to solve for these middle order weaknesses, and those solutions are utilize the power play better, set yourself a higher target. You have players like Sam who can do that. You have players like Shadab who you can send if you need to. Second point, again, Shadab, utilize him at the right time. He has a high strike rate when batting first. He again, if you look at this New Zealand series, he has a 191 strike rate, which is highest of all the players, including the New Zealand players. Um, why are you not utilizing that?
Who does,
Shadab,
bro? Say
Shadab.
that again.
Yeah,
Shadab Khan, yeah.
you know his
Bro, Shadab
his
needs to be
his batting
utilized
his
better for
batting
sure.
batting first, he has a strike rate much better than anyone else in your side. And then you have to shed that conservatism and you have to back these guys, bro. You have Shadab, you have Azam, you have
I agree
Ifti.
with that.
Like, why are you saving them? Like, I know we have this concern, you have this concern as well कि बड़ी game आएगी तो like Shadab rash shot खेल लेगा और out हो जाएगा. Yes, this can happen, but that's a risk you have to take. You have to take that risk.
Yeah, that concern I think is more so for me when we're chasing.
Right.
Your point is absolutely right. They're gonna have to start utilizing Shadab better.
Like, I think regardless of who they select in the final 15, for the most part, like Pakistan squad will reflect like modern T20 cricket. You have the likes of Azam Khan who'll probably be there. You have Abrar as like a mystery spinner. The next step is really just what I said, like shed that conservatism that seems to be like a huge part of like the makeup of the captain.
Yeah, no, there's no argument about that. I think Shan kahin na kahin mere dil mein bhi batting first or batting second. I'm putting myself in Babar's you know, perspective here. अगर वो दोनों जल्दी उड़ जाए and you have 120 for all those guys to play the way they play with the level of game awareness that we know they have, are you comfortable in that situation? This has been my problem with Pakistan's T20 batting thing. And again, I'm all with you in the over anchor usage is not good either. But I'm also someone in the middle because, bro, like if you compare to the other countries, you have guys who can attack while playing smart
अच्छा.
cricket simultaneously. I'm talking from a pragmatic point of view. Okay, we judge our T20 batting by the world standard. The world has a different standard
Yeah,
of
yeah, for
players
sure.
coming in after number three than we do, right? Our I love our players, but they are all are limited in some way or another. Should we work around it? Of course we can. But can we expect results the exact same way that other teams produce them?
No,
No, we
bro.
can't because our players are different,
Ultimately,
right?
our style of winning with the personnel that we have is still gonna be that you score a little bit above par and you expect your bowlers to defend it. I'm just asking for you to open your eyes a little bit and look for other ways to win. Because, like you said, that situation that you
Yeah.
defined is gonna be one example of something that could go wrong. But also, like, there's gonna be games where like you can't score par and expect your bowlers to win. You have to be able to win in different ways. Ultimately, like if Shadab, Azam is hard to say because like he's still young, but Shadab, Iftikhar, and Imad, the amount of cricket these guys have played, if they can't like be the guys who can help you through that situation, then who's gonna
Then
do
who's
it, right?
gonna who's
Yeah.
gonna do it then? Yeah, sure, sure. And I'm with you, bro, completely. Like I want us to change the way we play. That was part of the reason I didn't want Babar to become captain again because I
Yeah.
didn't want him to go into a shell. So I know it looks a little bit like I'm only looking from the worst point of view of something negative happening, which I agree is not how you should look at a game. I'm playing a little bit of
Yeah.
devil's advocate to what Babar is thinking because, bro, like let's go to the World Cup game against India, bro. Like we criticized the guy for being 50 off 58
Yeah.
with 20
That's true.
overs left. He got out and kya ho gaya? We didn't make 30 more
That's
runs
fair.
after that,
That's a
bro.
very good point. Yeah.
So I mean, right? Like
Baat to sahi
we're
hai.
also extreme in each of
And it's
these
the
things,
same guy,
right?
Shadab Ifti.
That's what I'm saying, bro. So oh no, and
यार
T20, you're right. It
my
should be a
difference
shortened
is कि यार
thing.
T20 में ज़्यादातर like situations ऐसी आती ही नहीं है where you're bowled out. Like one day में आ जाती है, but
नहीं नहीं बोल्ड आउट का नहीं आता है हक्स लेकिन मैचअप्स
नहीं
के आते
मैचअप्स के
हैं
आते हैं.
अगर इफ्तिखार इज कमिंग इन
नहीं
whatever
नहीं भाई
spinner
उसको
you
उसको
have
ना
at
ही
that
भेजो, मैं
point
नहीं
if he
कह रहा
has
कि उसको भेजो, उसको एंड तक ही रखो.
हाँ
या
that's all
नहीं
I'm saying
वही
like
that was my example for like sending him out. I was like कि अगर किसी सिचुएशन में तुम्हें like तुम सोच रहे भी हो एफटी को भेजने के लिए, उसको ना भेजो, इमाद को भेज दो उसके उसको. और प्लस वो
हाँ
अगर स्पिनर्स ऑन है, Shadab and Azam are like you counter attack, man. Like send Shadab and Azam and tell them to like destroy.
yeah and I hope that that's right what you're saying. I hope it is the default. I hope
Maybe
that is
I'm
what
going
we do. I
too.
want us
Yeah,
to take
maybe
the
I'm going
first
too
step and
extreme.
attack.
I know it's a Pakistan
No,
team.
you're not. I think you're right here. I think they should play how you are saying on a day in day out basis. I'm just saying that like I understand because I understand some of Babar's concerns or Rizwan's concerns at the top because
Yeah,
Pakistan team is also
the
capable
other
of
side of
collapsing at
this
any point,
argument is if like another team
anytime,
had a
right?
player like Shadab Khan, with like all the numbers that I'm talking about, given keeping in mind the context of the rest of the players, he would have had so much more opportunities to bat up the order and develop his game and stuff. Like we expect him to eventually become a player who can sort of guide us through in those situations as well. But like उसको batting का मौका कब मिलता है और कोई कौन देता है. So
मौका
like
ही नहीं मिलता
ultimately,
है
how is he
बेचारे
going to
को
develop his
yeah.
game when he doesn't get those chances to bat?
If it was any other player besides him or वो all-rounder या leg spinner का tag नहीं लगा हुआ होता है साथ में and he was batting and putting up the numbers Shadab does on a year in year out basis in the PSL, they would have given him a chance at number
Exactly,
3 or number
exactly.
4, right? They can for some reason उसका पता नहीं whether it's a stigma because he's an all-rounder. शोएब मलिक है तो तुमने बाप बना दिया 50,000 सालों के लिए who came in as an off spinner. So I don't know if that guy can play 300 games after switching to a batter, why can't Shadab Khan at least get a chance given to him at that
Yeah,
stage?
for sure. प्लस ब्रो अगर तुम इतने परेशान हो तो तुम नसीम शाह की बैटिंग देख लो टेस्ट में, वो आके डेड बैट कर लेता है, वही उसको भेज देना. आगे कोलैप्स हो रहा है. छक्का वक्का तो मार लेगा बीच में, not to get to fix it. शाहीन भी है,
I just
नसीम
want
भी है
guys who
ब्रो.
can play percentage cricket while taking
अबे ब्रो ये
percentage
लोग
risk.
10-10 बॉलें भी
If
खेल के
200
15-16 रन बना दे, नसीम भी है, शाहीन भी है, वो फिक्र नहीं करो यार, सही हो जाएगा.
those are the guys I don't worry about. I worry about the guys in the middle. That is the issue. एंड मैं बोलता हूँ कि ये भी आके मार लेगा वो मार लेगा but the guys who actually bat in the middle I think they need to just find a balanced approach of how to attack when necessary and how to not attack when necessary, bro. Like T20 में you have to go 10 and over you have to go
Yeah.
12 and over 12 and over doesn't mean कि तुम्हें 3 छक्के मारने it means कि तुमने एक छक्का मारना है और बाकी तुमने gaps निकालने for the rest of the over unless कोई बहुत ही हल्का बोल रहे हो then you go off him. But for us, I don't think we find that balance sometimes. I think it's either complete single, complete dot, or you try to swing at
Yeah.
every ball,
I
which
feel
is
like
the issue.
ultimately we're set up to score 170, 180. In the
That has to
Pakistan
change,
wickets,
bro.
obviously like the
Yeah,
170, 180 if West
yeah.
Indies will be different, but ultimately we're set up to score par, and we need to be looking at ways to score above par to give breathing room, bro. Because ultimately like
अभी तो शायद
नहीं
पार भी नहीं हो रहा
अभी तो
है
par
वैसे.
भी नहीं हो रहा.
If we're being honest.
वही ना इसलिए you have to think radically because ultimately the way you're playing right now is not gonna a get the best out of the resources you have and b like be enough to win the tournament. Having said that, जो West Indies की pitches हैं obviously they'll be more conducive to the style of play that we have. So again, if you just like tweak your style a little bit, use these right entry points, send players in positions where they can bat and make the most of their skills. That's where how we'll ultimately succeed.